Walking the line between politics and principles, the Reporter magazine's interview with Mustafa Mohamed Omar, the president of Somali Regional State on November 2, 2023.
Mustafa Mohamed Omar, widely known as Mustafi, is a key figure in Ethiopia's political landscape following the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front era.
As the president of the Somali Regional State and a member of the Prosperity Party, Mustafa has become synonymous with Ethiopia's post-reform era.
His personal journey is one marked by tragedy, having been exiled and tragically losing his family under the previous regime.
However, what strikes those who know Mustafa is his remarkable capacity for forgiveness, a principle that has become his ultimate weapon in addressing the ethnic, security, and political challenges facing the Somali region.
Under Mustafa's leadership, Somali region has undergone a significant transformation, transcending its previous marginalization and stepping into the forefront of the central political sphere.
His leadership has proved to be exemplary when it comes to preventing perilous signals of xenophobia in the regional state amidst rising ethnic tension in the current political landscape.
When compared to both current and former Ethiopian government officials, Mustafa stands out for his liberal stance, unwavering belief in unity, and deep commitment to human rights concerns.
However, it is important to note that his perspectives and recommendations, like those of many ruling party officials, closely align with the principles of the Prosperity Party. While Mustafa's approach to navigating Ethiopia's multifaceted challenges showcases his exceptional qualities, it remains firmly grounded within the ideological framework of his political affiliation. The reporter's Ashenify Endel has caught up with Mustaf.
During your time in exile prior to the regime change in April 2018, were you in touch with the change agents on the ground, or were you brought on board after the winds of change swept through the nation?
I was out of the country for almost 11 years, but I was absent only physically, not mentally. I knew what was going on in the country. So, while in exile, I was also trying to expose human rights violations in Ethiopia and the region to the world. Then, in 2018, I came back and joined the reform team.
Your remarkable success in establishing peace and stability in the Somali region stands in stark contrast to the xenophobic undercurrents of ethnic conflicts that plagued the region prior to your assumption of the regional presidency. Could you share with us the steps you have taken to build enduring institutions that will safeguard these hard-earned achievements, ensuring that they continue to thrive even in your absence?
The achievements were not brought about by an individual, but by collective teamwork. We cannot completely say that we are on a good footing as far as building institutions are concerned. I feel the reforms will continue regardless of my presence there. While I have contributed as a leader, it is essential to acknowledge the collective effort involved. We have received leadership, support, and guidance from the federal government, both at the government level and as a party.
In your pursuit of an Ethiopia free from the divisiveness of ethnic strife and united as a nation, has your party been successful in achieving this vision?
Because of the steps taken by the Prosperity Party, at least at the level of articulation, a lot has changed in the last 5 years. We have come away from hate politics, and efforts have been made to show that while there are ethnic and religious differences, the bigger national question or identity belonging to one country should be emphasized. And I think recent trainings organized by the Prosperity Party also show that there is an understanding that the two polar opposites of our national political discourse, which is ethnic extremism versus also what sometimes is referred to as a centralized kind of state. I think the discourse should be a balance that recognizes ethnic differences and rights, but also emphasizes collective prosperity and unity. I think the steps that have been taken so far are encouraging. But of course the reform is facing challenges from forces that do not accept the reform or the direction that has been taken.
While the 2018 power transition in Ethiopia was initially marked by a peaceful transfer of power, subsequent events have seen the country grappling with conflicts and war. What factors, in your view, contributed to this unfortunate turn of events?
I believe that the conflicts we have witnessed following the reform can be attributed to the political culture of the country. Additionally, it is not uncommon for transitional systems to face challenges. Therefore, the transfer of power was a significant event. It is understandable that those who lost power would challenge the new ruling party. In my opinion, it was inevitable for conflicts to arise between the new political leadership and the outgoing forces of power. This conflict can be explained by the reluctance of the previous regime to peacefully relinquish power, and the new leadership's desire to consolidate their authority.
Observers have noted that the Prosperity Party united to combat the TPLF but is now experiencing internal disintegration after their victory. What is your take on this viewpoint?
I believe that the main constituent members of the Prosperity Party remain intact. The previous four ruling parties, excluding the Tigray People's Liberation Front, along with other regional parties, merged to form the Prosperity Party. We are now united under one party, so it is safe to say that the party has not disintegrated. While there have been individuals who have left positions of power, It is important to note that these individuals are not limited to a specific region. During the formation of the party and within the first 1 or 2 years, individuals from various regions such as Somali, Oromia, Amhara, and the South chose to leave the Prosperity Party. However, I do not perceive the level of disintegration you mentioned. It is expected for some people to be dissatisfied and leave during the party's formation.
In your opinion, could the conflict in northern Ethiopia have been prevented if the Prosperity Party had engaged and included the TPLF? If not, what contributed to the inability to reach a resolution?
It is undoubtedly easier to reflect on past events and make judgments in hindsight. With the benefit of hindsight, we can speculate on what could have happened or not. However, it is important to acknowledge that, at the time, the prevailing mentality and the presence of various forces actively seeking to create conflict in the country made it incredibly challenging to avoid conflicts that arose.
Following the war in the north, the Somali Special Forces played a crucial role in holding off Al-Shabaab and filling the security vacuum created by the relocation of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. Can you confirm if the ENDF has since returned to the Somalia border areas, particularly considering reports of the restructuring of the Special Forces?
The threat posed by Al-Shabaab always remains present, particularly due to a dysfunctional system on the other side. However, the Federal Security Forces and National Defense Forces are consistently stationed along the border, and the reformed Somali police also provide support. So, we are confident in our ability to prevent Al-Shabaab from infiltrating Ethiopia. Nevertheless, we maintain a state of constant vigilance and readiness to respond to any potential attacks. The threat persists as long as a terrorist group exists at our border with a clear motive and interest in destabilizing Ethiopia. Therefore, it would be inaccurate to claim that there is no threat. However, we have confidence in the capabilities of our security forces.
With the ongoing African Transition Mission in Somalia, ATMIS, withdrawal set to conclude by the end of 2024, do you anticipate an escalation of Al-Shabaab attacks targeting Ethiopia?
Yes. I think the threat level will increase if the African peacekeeping mission departs without being replaced by another force. I believe we should consider that factor in our plan and prepare for the outcome.
Does Ethiopia's relationship with Somaliland have a positive impact on its relationship with Somalia as a whole, or does it create tensions between the two?
I don't know how our relationship with Somaliland can affect our relationship with Somalia. Somalia and the Ethiopian government may disagree on the security coordination and business relationship we have with Somaliland.
According to certain observers, recognizing Somaliland as an independent state could potentially result in the establishment of a puppet government or a state vulnerable to extremist influence. What are your thoughts on this?
I honestly wouldn't want to speculate on something that is not on the table right now. I believe Ethiopia's interest is in dealing with peaceful and united Somalia, and Ethiopia can only play a positive role in ensuring that the conflict in Somalia, both communal and political conflicts, as well as the one related to Al-Shabaab, is resolved in a peaceful manner and through processes led by Somalis themselves.
Under the previous EPRDF regime, the Somali region experienced marginalization compared to other regional states. However, can we confidently assert that the Somali region is now at the center of Ethiopia's political landscape solely based on the representation of Somali officials in federal positions?
No, we are not at the center yet, but having good representation at the center is a good beginning. What changed is the fact that until 2018, when the reform came, the prevailing mindset in the Somali region has been very negative towards the center. From endless human rights violations to marginalization, the people have suffered. So, any person who wants to be honest about the feelings in that part of the country knows that the Somalis were not happy. To the extent of many openly saying we were not Ethiopians, I believe in the last 5 years that has also changed. And it has changed not only among the public but also related to peace, freedom of speech, human rights, and some significant developments. This is because the leadership has now clearly articulated the Somali region's interest in Ethiopian politics. Instead of sitting on the fence of the periphery, we should be part of the center, as we are Ethiopians, and we should do what is expected of us as citizens. In that regard, I think there is a marked change in the mentality of politicians and elites. Now there is a clear direction that we should be part of the central politics. The Minister of Finance is Somali, and we also have representation in the Addis Ababa city administration for the very first time, including the Deputy Speaker. Therefore, this shows that we are making progress. For me, these are all good beginnings, but to say that and to be at the center, we need a lot to do. We need to integrate into the security sector and integrate economically into the national economy. So, I think we are on course to do that.
In your previous statement, you expressed your desire to create a unified Somali region that accommodates all ethnic groups. Could you provide insights into how you were able to achieve this goal? How did you address the significant ethnic strife and instability that existed in the region when you assumed power?
I think I can explain what I meant at that time. There was some politically motivated violence against non-Somalis in Jigjiga. Some of my comments were directly related to that event, which was violence engineered and led by the then leadership of the region for political reasons. So, we said we don't want something like that to happen in our region because it doesn't represent our people. The Somali people are not against other people who are living in the region. People have lived together in that region without being attacked. So, we try to pass that message, which really has helped the region bring everyone together. It is our firm belief, and that is the way it has to be. Morally, any person living in the country should have the rights that anyone would want as a citizen. So, those rights include the right to trade, live, and work, and all those are to be respected. You may have incidents or issues here and there, and sometimes we may have people who want to create internal conflict with different motives. But as a position of the regional government, we have to work to address the creation of an inclusive democratic Ethiopia.
There is a growing chorus of voices suggesting that the ruling party is experiencing a decline in its support base. What is your opinion on the notion that the ruling party is losing its support base?
What research or assessment is this based on? Can you elaborate? Because it may be the feeling of some people, but to arrive at such a conclusion, one needs to conduct proper research. To my understanding, Ethiopia is always a polarized country, politics is divisive and there are different opinions, but to me, I don't see the Prosperity Party losing ground nationally, as you put it. In order to know that, I think the next election would be critical. The last election, as you know, was more free than ever, and people have participated. In many areas, the feeling was good. But we still have a couple of years until the next election. So, let's see if the Prosperity Party loses in the next election. Before that, I think there are going to be lots of voices and more debates nationally. But we cannot conclusively say that everything is over on the basis of media statements. I think you need complete information to say that, and as far as the Somali region is concerned, the Prosperity Party is very popular, as I can tell you. Why? Because people see they didn't have peace before the reform, there were massive human rights violations in the region, there was little development, and their voices had little standing at the national level and were far lower than today. So, we can confidently say that we are in good shape, and the support we get from the Prosperity Party is increasing by the day.
The Derg regime claimed to have support from the industrial working class, despite the absence of such a class in reality. In the case of the Prosperity Party, considering the majority of Ethiopians are low-income individuals, who would you say forms the support base of the party?
The support base of the Prosperity Party is not only the middle class. If you read our political program, unlike past parties like the Workers' Party of Ethiopia during the Derg regime and also the EPRDF party, it doesn't confine itself to a particular segment of society. It says it seeks support from all walks of life: farmers, peasants, pastoralists, urban professionals, middle and lower income citizens, and the like. The party seeks to have a base on all sides. It disagrees with the fundamental logic of confining yourself to a particular segment because you are serving the whole population. So, if at all, the succession with having a political power base during the Derg regime and the EPRDF reign were misplaced. However, the Prosperity Party political program differs from that, and it says you don't have to confine yourself to any particular group. Anybody who can have a role and a vision for the party, and to transform the country from the grips of poverty to a prospering country can be a support base for the party. But I think it has to be registered first. Secondly, in terms of the economic situation, as you know, global and regional factors as well as some national issues, some of which are inherited, were exerting immense pressure on the economy. And, yes, inflation is a challenge. I think the government has acknowledged that and has put some mechanisms in place to mitigate the impact of inflation on the people. But there is also a lot of economic transformation, as you can see in many parts of the country. For instance, as you can see from our agricultural productivity, I believe the figures are remarkable both at a national level and from the point of view of the Somali region. We, as a region, have doubled our agricultural productivity. So, of course, there is inflation, but the economy is growing. And to that end, I believe it is not wrong to aspire to live in a prosperous country. I hear people asking what the point of talking about the notion of prosperity is when we are plagued by poverty. But again, there are countries that were poorer than us and transformed their economies in a short period of time. So, for a country that has a rich history, ample natural resources, and enough population resources, I think it is normal to aspire to be a prosperous country. Such beliefs form the right mindset, but that doesn't mean we are forgetting that we are poor. That's why a number of poor support activities are done in the country by the government, including the Lemet Terafat, cultural production, housing for the poor members of the community, and a number of other initiatives that could address the poor sections of our society. But the overriding vision is that we can change this country into a prosperous country.